So, John, if you could replace the fingers on your hands with any object at all, which object would you pick and why?
Could I pick someone else's fingers?
Oh, that is creepy. Whose fingers?
I don't know, someone like Chris Pratt's.
You want Chris Pratt's fingers?
Sure, I don't know, someone with like big hands.
Okay. I'm not going to ask what you'd like to do with Chris Pratt's fingers. But, okay, that's a weird choice.
It'll be more fun than a pair of scissors, put it that way.
Some films are fine just the way they are. Other films sometimes take it way too far. But really, how bad could it get? Let's go beyond the box set.
Welcome everybody to Beyond the Box Set, a podcast where we pitch prequels, sequels and spin-offs to films that don't have any. I'm Harry, and joining me as always is John.
Hello.
And we've got another guest this week, so John, introduce our guest.
Yeah, this week we have Paul from the Blokebusters podcast. Not only a great podcaster, but also a regular contributor to our show. He always has a good sequel idea in our listener submissions, so we felt it was about time we brought him on for the main show. So welcome, Paul.
Yeah, well, happy to be here, finally. I mean, come on.
Would you like to just very quickly tell our listeners about what Blokebusters is and how they can find it, etc.?
Sure. Well, Blokebusters started as myself and my podcasting partner, Brian. We worked together and we just like talking about films. And I was listening to podcasts and I thought, oh, it'd be fun to do a podcast. And he said, yes, it would. And so we basically just did that. And we talk about films and also sometimes off-themed. We've done a few things like Stranger Things and anything that kind of takes our fancy. My partner is taking a little bit of a sabbatical right now, but I'm still going on. I've had other guests on and doing my best to keep going. And I'm also doing the Filmly Fortune podcast that you guys have been on, and so you can look out for that. And yeah, obviously you can find Blokebusters on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Blokebusters, and same thing for Filmly Fortune. So either one you want to give a listen, that would be lovely.
Cool, good stuff. And this week, what film have you brought for us?
I have chosen, kind of at the behest of my wife, I've chosen to go with Edward Scissorhands. I think it was one of my first introduction to Tim Burton. Obviously, I'd seen Nightmare Before Christmas, but this was my first live action one. So it was something that I kind of thought about trying to suggest this for a while, and I was having a bit of trouble thinking of a sequel idea, but once I've agreed to come on and suggested it, I was like, okay, now I've got to come up with one, so we'll see how well that went.
Now, this film, actually, this is the first episode that they were releasing in December, so that means this kind of lands in our annual Christmas season. We usually keep December for Christmas films, which I guess leads to the question, is Edward Scissorhands a Christmas film?
I would say no.
I think I would say no too, having now watched it in the last week.
I mean, it does heavily feature Christmas. The main action happens at Christmas. And it's all about snow and ice and, you know, there's carols in it.
Yes, but, and I've had this argument several times with people, is what exactly classifies something as a Christmas film? For instance, I would say that It's a Wonderful Life is absolutely not a Christmas film. It just happened to take place around that time, but it's actually the story of George, and it's his kind of coming to realize that he does make a difference. Like, that's got nothing to do with Christmas, so
it's all on Christmas Day, that film, isn't it, though? It's a Wonderful Life.
Christmas Eve, I think.
Christmas Eve. See, I would say that is because it's kind of like it's a Christmas miracle sort of story, and yeah, it's not all about Christmas in the way that, say, well, actually, no, I was gonna use Love Actually as an example there, but that's kind of on the same side as It's a Wonderful Life. It's not about Christmas, but it's just about the relationships that are happening and what Christmas means for different people.
Yeah, I feel like Christmas is more of a feeling than a, you know, they feel like Christmassy movies because you always watch them at Christmas. And I feel like this falls into that category somewhat.
It feels like Christmas, but it's not about Santa Claus.
Yeah, sure.
I say, if we're going to go down that route, then that means that The Great Escape and Jurassic Park feel like Christmas films to me, because they were always out at Christmas growing up.
I always felt it with Harry Potter 1 and 2, because they've got really good sort of snowy Christmassy scenes in the middle, so I just think of them as Christmas movies.
Fair enough. Well, let's agree to give this a pass, just to
I guess.
crowbar it into our Christmas
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, there we go.
What happened to you?
I'm not finished.
Oh! Put those down. Don't come any closer. Just, please. Those are your hands. Those are your hands. What happened to you?
So I wasn't a big fan of this.
No?
No.
Okay.
I can see that it is very creative, and I enjoy the world that it's built into, and so I enjoyed the first 45 minutes of the film. Really,
Sure.
when you're just seeing all these little quirks and everything that's there's a very Tim Burton sort of feel. But then after that, when it gets into just the main sort of story of it, I kind of phased out a little bit.
I would somewhat agree, not to jump on the film. I mean, it's a really good film. I would say that I think the plot is quite weak. I think it's an idea film, and this is something that I find a lot with Tim Burton films, is that they're great concept films. He's obviously got a central... I think they always come from an image. He's got a good visual imagination.
Yeah.
But I think the actual plot doesn't quite hang together. I don't think he quite knew what to do once he'd introduced the character. And when it takes that hard turn in the second half into suddenly kind of generic thriller territory, when suddenly Anthony Michael Hall shows up as Winona Ryder's boyfriend and tries to kill him rather abruptly, it feels like a strange way for it to end, because the first half of the film didn't feel like that kind of film.
Yeah.
So I'd agree. I think I really like it. I think it's a good film. I think there's enough really classic imagery and really good performances in it to make it a classic. But I don't think it's like a great movie.
And the reason it might not feel like a lot of his other stuff is he didn't write it. He had the idea from his childhood, but when Beetlejuice was in pre-production, someone else was hired to turn it into a screenplay. So that might be what happened there. It's just his idea, but it's not his script, or he didn't have as huge an influence there.
Yeah, I read about that too. It's really interesting that the concept for the film came from... It's a metaphor for like isolation, because Tim Burton was a very lonely child. He said he didn't have a lot of friends, and everyone thought he was just this weirdo. So he always had this image of this tall person with... I think he drew a picture when he was a child or something of like a very tall, skinny guy with crazy hair that he had, with knives for fingers, as kind of a representation of why people wouldn't want to get anywhere couldn't get close to him, because...
So Edward Scissorhands is supposed to be Tim Burton.
Basically, yes.
You know what? That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
No, yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it really does. And not in a bad way. I don't mean it in like a bullying way. Just like, yeah, you can really see that.
Yeah, definitely. I think he has gone on the record in the past and said that looking back, he doesn't think it's the best film he's ever made, but it's his personal favourite because it's the most personal to him. So
yeah, that's fair.
Right. And it's interesting as well, given that he's supposed to be Tim Burton, the actors that they kind of went for it before they landed with Johnny Depp. Yeah, Tom Cruise. They wanted to get him, and they also approached...
Do people just go Tom Cruise for everything?
Well, it was 1990. He was a sure thing. You know.
They also approached Tom Hanks and Gary Oldman.
I don't know about Tom Hanks.
I can't see Tom Hanks.
No, he doesn't do a lot of costume work.
I think he could have pulled it off, but it would have been different. It would have been... Tom Cruise, I just don't think would have worked in the slightest.
No.
It would have been
Gary
weird.
Oldman would have worked.
I think Gary Oldman would have worked in a different way, because he's...
Yeah, I also agree with that.
Because I think the thing with Johnny Depp is he looks very young. I think he was very young when he was in his mid-20s, I think. But he looks young. And he's got this kind of almost Peter Pan kind of Lost Boy quality.
Yeah.
Which I think fits the kind of magical sense of the film. Gary Oldman would feel more like a adult, I think. I don't know what the age difference is between Gary Oldman and Johnny Depp. It might not be huge, but I've never seen Gary Oldman look like a boy. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Well, it was only, 4 or 5 years later that he did The Fifth Element. And
Oh, sure,
I feel like he would have looked kind of similar to that. He would have been Zorg Scissorhands or something.
True. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, he would have been doing a lot. I mean, Johnny Depp's doing a lot, but I think Gary Oldman would have been really
Johnny Depp's
at
doing
11.
something that's it's a bit subtle. What Johnny Depp's doing in a way, like what his acting is subtle, his look is not subtle.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think the physicality of his performance is really, really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's not very fashionable to be positive about Johnny Depp these days, but I think in this film he was really genuinely fantastic. Well,
I think it's because most people are a bit sick of Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, because they just seem to be doing similar things
all the
time. They're not evolving that much, despite the fact that Johnny Depp has got a wildly different character that he plays in every single film, I'd say.
I think the problem is nowadays he does rely on a lot of the same old shtick, but
Yeah, I've really not put that into words the way I meant it.
I don't
to,
mean
but-
he's done a lot of different things over
Yes.
his career, but he can be guilty of repeating the same things
Yes,
as well.
yeah, exactly.
But watching an early Johnny Depp performance, you can appreciate, okay, this was really something quite different and fresh, and he definitely put a lot of work into the physicality, because the character hardly speaks. He says, like, I think less than 150 words in the entire movie, so it's all on the physicality and the stuff he does with his eyes and his body language. So yeah, I think of those actors, he was the right choice.
His makeup is a whole character in this film.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. But it really reminded me, actually, of Michael Jackson.
Okay, yeah.
The look. And apparently he was also interested in the role, but Tim Burton was like, that's a flat no.
Michael Jackson just really wanted to act, clearly, because he wanted to play Spider-Man, and he attempted to buy Marvel so he could do it.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Oh,
obviously
I
the people
love
at Marvel
that.
just said, no.
I love that. I wish that somebody would have done that. So, like, instead of Tobey Maguire, we got Stan Lee as Spider-Man.
Wow.
Oh, God. What a world.
Well,
If Michael Jackson was more successful than being the most famous person in the world.
yeah. So, Paul, before we go any further, as the guest, would you like to do a very quick plot summary of this film for people who might be listening who haven't seen it?
Sure, I'll give it a good go. So, basic premise of the film then is that there is a young man called Edward who has scissor blades for hands, and that's it. He was created by the inventor, who died before he was able to give him hands, and so he's been living on his own in this house, and just by happenstance, basically, the mother of the main character of the film stumbles across him and brings him home, and hilarity and danger sort of ensues as the daughter grows closer to him, and the neighbours kind of appreciate him and then grow to be weary of him, especially due to the intervention of a couple of the neighbours and also Kim, the main character's boyfriend. So it's a fun film, I thought, but it does hit some kind of heavy tones from time to time. Did you want me to give the ending away as well, or shall we?
Oh, yeah, we don't bother about spoilers here, just go crazy.
Alright, so it kind of all starts to culminate that Edward, just by attempting to save Kim's brother from being run over by Kim's drunk ex-boyfriend at this point, he pushes him out of the way and ends up cutting him with his scissory hands, and that leads the neighbourhood to turn on him, thinking that he was attacking him, so he runs away.
I mean, it's fair on the neighbourhood in that scene. Like, he doesn't help himself.
No, but he also doesn't know to help himself.
True.
Yeah, so he runs back to the house, and the boyfriend chases after him with a gun, and an altercation ensues when Edward sees the boyfriend hit Kim, and he ends up running him through with the knives and pushing him out of the window, at which point Kim goes outside with a spare pair of scissor hands that are lying around to say that they both ended up killing each other. And it finishes the film with you seeing that the person who's been telling this story is Kim as a grandmother, telling it to her granddaughter, and she believes he's still alive because it still snows, which it only did because he was up there carving his ice sculptures, which I mean, the logistics of that alone really bothered me.
Where did he get the ice from?
Yeah, Winona Ryder in the old lady drag appears at the beginning of the film as well, though, and as well as the end. I got a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Of course you do. I think that Winona Ryder's name is in the credits beforehand. And so when I first saw this, like, oh, Winona Ryder's now. I like Winona Ryder. She's got who she's going to be.
Yeah.
And then suddenly this is old lady, and like, that's Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Why is she an old lady?
I loved her old lady voice. It was so bad.
You could hear that it was Winona Ryder.
So much. It's so, God bless her. Yeah, it wasn't a particularly convincing old lady. She was really doing like just a real kind of like, it's been 700 years and I still remember. It's like she's really laying it on thick.
How old was she supposed to be?
Early hundreds? No, I don't know.
Ish, yeah.
Probably like 80s, 90s, just old lady. I don't know. Yeah.
It was as if she'd somehow seen Titanic 8 years before it came out and was just imitating that old lady.
Also, telling a story to her granddaughter presumably, who is lying in the most comically oversized bed I've
good,
ever
wasn't
seen.
I mean, I would have loved a bed that big as a kid, but...
Yeah, exactly. I felt like the entire film was like that. It was like so many of the interiors seemed so huge in comparison to the people around them. All the furniture looked really big. I don't know if it must be a conscious choice. It made it all look that little bit more fairy tale-ish, I think. Like, it always looked slightly unreal.
But then the town looked like it was a model that they just zoomed the camera in on.
Yeah, I got that sense too.
Multiple times it looked like that, but then on some occasions they just have people walking around and be like, how did they do that? Did they build a town, or have they like managed to get people to look that small or something with a camera trick or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I can tell you, just based on my experiences here in America, there are many places where the houses look like that. It is just almost like when people were building houses over here, they were going for the idyllic storybook neighborhood where everyone just looked like they're out of a picture book. And so I'm sure it wasn't difficult for them to find something that looked like just like a model, because that's kind of what the style was back then.
Sure.
She never saw him again. Not after that night.
How do you know?
Because I was there.
You could have gone up there. You still could go.
No, sweetheart. I'm an old woman now. I would rather him remember me the way I was.
How long do you think Edward Scissorhands has been hiding in that castle before he gets discovered?
I reckon a few years since Vincent Price died.
I feel like we're going to have no way of actually knowing for sure, because all we see is just the inventor inside the room with him, and then that's it. So we have no real sense of time. So it could have been 3 years later, or it could have been 20 years later, although I guess depending on how long it's been, maybe the city council will have looked into doing something with the house. I don't know.
Well, it does seem like that mansion or castle, whatever it might be, is completely disconnected to the town. Because at the beginning, when Dianne Wiest kind of looks out, like she's doing her makeup round, she's an Avon lady. She goes door to door and she doesn't make any sales. And then she kind of looks in her rearview mirror and sees this like magical castle that's randomly just plonked in the middle of this very suburban town. And she kind of goes, as if it's the first time she's ever seen it.
Yeah, because also she lives in that town.
She lives in that town, yeah. But she's never...
Along with, what, like 20 people?
Yeah. It's never come up.
People don't see what they don't want to see, I suppose.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, it did have a very kind of Frankenstein-y vibe to me, which I think is obviously intentional. I'd forgotten at first from the previous time I'd seen this film what Edward was. I assumed he was a zombie. Like, I don't mean that.
When was the last time you watched
Zombie
this film?
So,
Scissorhands.
I thought he was constructed from like human flesh, and then the film makes it more obvious that he's a robot essentially.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of doesn't really tell you, but it kind of implies he's probably a robot. Yeah.
But he does cut himself and bleed.
That's a good point. What is he?
Could be an android, like kind of a mixture of the two.
I reckon you're on something with the Frankenstein thing.
You think he's actually a zombie? Okay.
Or something
Maybe
like that.
the inventor's son that died and he's bringing him back.
Yeah.
And then he just gave him Scissorhands.
I've got a really good concept for what it is.
Okay.
But
He's saving that.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm saving that. That's fine.
Yeah, he doesn't appear to feel pain.
He seems to react, but he doesn't.
Yeah, he notices when he's cut. He flinches.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
when he cuts himself. But I mean, he doesn't make any big injuries on himself. Like
No, true.
small cuts, which also he'd be very used to anyway.
Sure, that's very true, yeah.
If you look at how scarred his face is. So, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, you want a cracker?
Different. Oh, completely different.
No kidding.
He's so mysterious. Do you imagine those hands are hot or cold? And just think what a single snip could do.
Or undo.
So Dianne Wiest goes to this magical castle and she stumbles across this obviously disturbed crazy man with knives for fingers. And she's like, well, come back to my family home and live with my kids.
It's weird that she has like an initial bit of shock.
Yeah.
That's not weird.
Yeah.
But then she gets over it very quickly.
Yeah.
Why would you get over that?
Yes.
You'd be like, oh dear God. You'd run away. And you'd call the police and they would come and then there'd probably be some kind of shootout and that'd be it, film over.
Yeah.
But then she wouldn't make a sale.
Yeah, she really wants to sell that makeup.
She could have sold it to the police afterwards.
Yeah. I don't think she's actually...
And all the reporters and everybody that were coming to the town to just see about this story of the monster that lives in the mansion at the top of the hill, who carves hedges very well.
Actually, to be fair, she does then kind of wheel Edward out onto like the local TV circuit, which he doesn't appear to be terribly comfortable with. So maybe she is just seeing dollar signs the whole time.
Did she actually start making money out of that?
Not that I'm aware, but...
Because that feels like a missed opportunity when she's literally getting into the TV business.
Yeah.
Like, sell them some makeup or do some makeup for TV stars or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe that was her ulterior motive, who knows? But, yeah. I mean, we saw Dianne...
There's probably a spin-off
definitely
there.
Just the Avon lady calling,
Oh, she can only do makeup for abnormal people.
Sure. Well, I don't think she's a very good makeup artist.
Do you think?
No, she's... Well, she just does...
I mean, I have no idea. Like, there's the scene where she's just slapping makeup on his face, like, as much as she can, and I'm like, I'm sure this is supposed to be funny because she's putting a lot of makeup on him, but I genuinely have no idea if this is a lot of makeup or not.
I mean,
there's a point normal.
There's a point when she basically turns him into Violet Beauregard. Just paints him purple. Like...
Well, that was a base layer, wasn't it?
Okay.
I guess. I don't know. Again,
you sound like you know more than you let it on.
I'm completely out of my depth here.
Sure.
I think he may protest too much.
I really
this is
don't
a common
know.
Well, I can't deny it anymore now, can I? So, anyway,
Harry is in fact in full drag right now. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the purple just wasn't reacting well with his particular colour palette, but yeah.
Sure, let's run with that.
She generally seems to be a very nice kind of person, though. I think it's good to have Dianne Wiest playing that. We just saw her in The Birdcage, and she's very good at that kind of optimistic kind of...
Wait, who was she in that?
She was... My God, how have you... Did you actually watch The Birdcage, or were you just kind of trying to wing it that episode?
No, I tried. But, like, so which one?
She was the senator's wife. She's pretty distinctive looking.
Ah, yeah. Her hair is quite different. So.
Oh, fine, okay. Sometimes I think you've got facial blindness.
Well, I think I do.
Okay.
Like I said, her hair was different.
Her hair was different, okay, sure.
Also, I don't know her as an actress. Like,
no, but you've seen her in two big roles in two films.
The Birdcage was the first time I've seen her in, and so I didn't notice her as...
Yeah.
Like, I noticed that other people in The Birdcage, because like, oh, I know that person, and so
sure.
then the more on my mind.
You've seen her now in two big roles in the space of 2 weeks, and you never thought, oh, that's the same person.
I mean, I recognise the name, but I was like, I don't know where from, and I know it's not somebody I know well.
Yeah. All right, fine.
But it feels
I often
recent.
have the other issue. I will recognise the person, but I won't remember the name. So
yeah.
I'm one of those guys that's like, yeah, that person that was in that thing. Yeah.
Oh, I'll forget the name, but I'll recognise the name if it's given to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, between the two of you, you're onto a winner here.
Yeah, we should do a podcast where we just try and remember who we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's that guy. No, I'm not sure.
But yeah, so then he comes down into the town and is immediately noticed by all of the women in the town, who appear to be some kind of cult.
Yeah, this kind of Stepford Wives-esque.
No, I think a cult might be a bit extreme, but the impression I got was just housewives with nothing better to do.
Sure, yeah.
So just like, hey, there's a new man in town. Let's have a barbecue.
Did any of these women have husbands?
Yeah, they all did, because at one point you see them all on a street corner. They're all just like talking or something.
Okay.
And then like one car comes back, and then they all instantly disperse.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then all the cars come back. Okay. And then the next morning you see all the cars again, all in the same pastel colours as the houses.
Yes.
All the cars then leave at the exact same time. So
I see.
The husbands just go out to work for the day.
Okay.
And then come back in the evening, and that's when the wives are to be like, oh, God, got to put a dinner on.
But all of these women seem like they really want to fuck Edward Scissorhands.
Well, yeah, because they're a bit bored of just having the same man in their life.
I see, okay.
So they've all got the same life.
Okay, I see.
Pretty much. I think that's the style that's been chosen here.
Sure, yeah. Because I was puzzled by that aspect. Especially the Kathy Baker character, the kind of slutty one, the one with like the red hair and like the...
it was Kathy Baker. I saw
No, you're thinking of Kathy Bates.
I was going to say, I saw the name in the credits and thought, oh, Kathy Baker from Titanic. Oh, lovely.
I mean, they look nothing alike.
Well, I know. so I was looking out for her the whole film.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
So again, that's somebody who I know. I was looking out for, and she wasn't there because I got the name wrong. Okay, so maybe I'm just no good at anything.
Well, that's a bit. Don't get down on yourself. It's not that bad.
Am I wrong?
Well.
That's one thing I'm good at, talking myself down.
Yeah. Aw. The Kathy Baker character, yes. So she's like this very vampish kind of, desperate housewife, who I think might be his actual potential soulmate, because her nails were basically the same as they were just as long and impractical and dangerous as his scissors. Like, they were ridiculous. Like, so they could have actually really put something together, but obviously she's a bit too sexually aggressive. But what did they want to happen?
I don't know, because...
What did they think could?
Yeah, really? Exactly. I mean, he's going to be no good for fingering.
Well,
that's going to just be,
Yeah, that's not going to be...
That's going to just put them in ER. Right?
His clothes don't look like they've got a zipper.
No.
Or any way to actually take them off. Like, I don't think he's taken that black leather suit off his whole life.
And if he did, is there anything under there?
It's cogs, I believe, we see at one point.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, basically it seems like he's the sexiest thing that has landed in the town ever. And once again, this is a clearly disturbed robot man with knives for fingers. Mm-hmm. This is the best they're ever going to get.
He's just fresh meat.
Yeah, I guess true. Well, he's not. If he's a reanimated corpse, he's the opposite of fresh meat. But he does start to, I guess, use his skills to win them all around, because first he starts trimming all the hedges, which again I had questions. Because the first one he does, he's like trimming kind of a standard garden hedge, and then they all turn around and they turn back, and suddenly it's like a 10-foot sculpture of a Tyrannosaurus or something.
Yes.
So how big was that hedge to start with?
Probably not that big. Also, that's very much not how hedge trimming works.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah.
And how did he get up to the top of it as well?
Yeah. We never see the scenes when he flies, or when he's like go-go gadget legs, like he just like stretches out.
He's got Miracle Grow coming out of one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of skills we're not seeing here. Then he starts cutting the dog's hair, which made me very nervous.
Yeah, same actually.
And then he finally moves on to the women.
Yes, which again made me very, very nervous. Also, there were some very strong styles there that nobody seems to be consulted on beforehand.
Well, I mean, this film is a wig watch gold standard,
isn't it?
So, and I always like Tim Burton films for this. Mm-hmm. He loves a wig. He loves to put an actor in a wig, and yeah, all of those women have fantastic, like geometric shapes and all different sizes and fonts, and that's really good.
I mean, all their hair looked, once he'd gone at them, all their hair looked deliberate, I'll say. I was going to say tidy, but not necessarily. Like, it didn't feel like he knew what he was doing.
No.
He would just be like, I'm going to chop off this big bit here, and it still looked like a crazy style, but...
Yeah, it was quite haphazard. He seemed like he was just like, I'm creating.
Yeah, made me anxious.
But for them, it seems like the most erotic experience, again, that they've ever had. Like, maybe they're all just really into danger.
Yes.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah, it does seem to be just that element of danger and the unknown.
Yeah, because that's a kink. Oh, he's got knives for hands. He could kill me at any moment. Ooh.
Yeah. And these guys have clearly lived the most safe life you could possibly.
That's probably it. Yeah, that's probably it. They're so bored and so suburban that this crazed knife-fingered man is just, is very hot to them.
So if he's Tim Burton, is that how Tim Burton thinks that women see him?
Maybe it's like a wish fulfillment. Yeah,
it's confusing.
I mean, Helena Bonham Carter has always had very mad hair.
Yes.
So maybe that's where it came from.
The attraction.
She is a perfect match.
Well, maybe that's what they used to do together. You would just like take a pair of scissors and just be like, success.
Yeah, just sellotape some scissors to his hands and just go for it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they've had a little bit of role play. They seem like the kind.
Do you reckon I've done role players like different characters from different films?
Oh, sure.
It's like you got Bellatrix Lestrange from Harry Potter and
Edward Scissorhands.
And Edward Scissorhands, yeah.
I mean, that works, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going to go with her in Fight Club.
Also a good one, yeah.
I'm sure she's done them all at some point.
Do you reckon that her character in Fight Club would actually get with Edward Scissorhands? Do you think that she'd do that, or she got no time for that?
I think she would once.
Yeah.
Just to do it.
Well, I think any woman who slept with Edward Scissorhands would sleep with him once.
Yeah.
And then they'd go to the hospital or die.
I love a well-placed waterbed in a film.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how many of you say that like it's a real trope?
Oh, they've done it in X-Men as well.
Oh, okay.
Once or twice with Wolverine.
Okay.
It was very similar.
Okay, sure.
What is the point of a waterbed?
Well, that's the thing. Poor Winona's going to have terrible back problems because you don't have waterbeds anymore because they're really bad for your back because they give you no support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, was that waterbed pressured? Because, like, when he stabbed it in the top, it just exploded everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
What's forcing that water upwards?
Movie magic, Harry. Movie magic.
Movie magic. Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
But then eventually, like, when Winona Ryder comes back,
her
Kim
bedroom is going to be ruined.
Well, it absolutely is. But then, so she comes back, she finds a strange man with knives for fingers in her bed, and understandably, doesn't take that too well.
Don't know why her parents didn't tell her.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they didn't know she was home. She came home late, didn't she? And early. She came home late at night, early from when they expected her. She was on some trips to the mountains. Or something. I mean, to be fair, they seem like very negligent parents.
Yes.
I don't think Dianne Wiest is a good mom. Yeah, and then so when she finds Edward in her bed, the parents are like, oh, we'll move him down to the pull-out sofa bed, which is not a waterbed, in the bar or the basement. It's like, why didn't you do that in the first place?
What? Yeah, come on.
We really missed a scene, actually. They skipped any kind of scene between her bringing Edward home and her introducing Edward to her husband, played by Alan Arkin, who looks weird with her, and the son. So yeah, I really wanted that scene, like where she actually explained like why she'd brought this person home and who he was, and they seemed that it would just cut to them being kind of on board.
Yeah, it was weird that he was never against it.
Yeah,
I really thought that was going to be where this story was going to go, and she's going to be seeing his good sides, he's going to be seeing his bad sides, and that was going to be the main story. But no, Dad just didn't care.
Yeah, it takes a weird route, this film, the plot, because you'd think it would be, okay, here's a character who is visually terrifying and clearly dangerous and socially awkward. So you'd think the plot would be, this one woman sees something vulnerable and good in him, takes him back to the town, he's rejected, he's feared, but then he wins them round with his talent and his good heart. And maybe he saves the day in some way into the film, everyone loves him, happy ever after. But this film does the opposite. It's a kind-hearted woman finds disturbed, blade-fingered freak in attic, takes him down to town. Everyone immediately embraces him. Then they decide he's wicked and awful. Then he kills a young boy and then hides away forever.
Yes.
It's kind of the opposite of a feel-good film in many ways. It's like, actually, he should have been alone the whole time.
Well, I was going to say, like, with the husband complete just apathy towards Edward, maybe Peg brings home stray animals all the time. And this is just one step up from that. It's like, all right, it's just not the coyote this time.
What's the next step?
Oh God, yeah, actual serial killer.
Yeah.
So here's a grizzly bear. It has eaten our son, but it was an accident. It's fine. Let's just brush it off.
Yeah. He'll just stay outside. We'll have a little pen.
One thing the husband does do, which isn't much, is I do like his Christmas carol singing. Because then when the film does become a Christmas movie, or when Christmas arrives, there's a lovely scene of him on top of the roof just really belting out I saw 3 ships come sailing in, that one. And he sounds like a South Park character. He's really putting on like a voice. It's like,
yeah.
I saw 3 ships come sailing by on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. I saw 3 ships come sailing by on Christmas Day in the morning.
So Winona Ryder's character arrives in a fabulous blonde wig. He falls in love with her, like love at first sight. She is initially resistant to him. She's got this boyfriend played by Anthony Michael Hall called Jim, I think. But then he kind of takes a hard turn into villainy, does Jim. Because first he uses Edward. We found out Edward can pick locks with his fingers. So they use that to break into his own parents' house. His parents, by the way, are never seen in this film, Jim's parents.
No.
They don't exist. Their son dies. Their teenage son dies. And as far as we know, they never even know. And then Edward gets blamed, but then Winona starts to feel very guilty. She realises Edward has a good heart. She dumps Jim. Jim goes nuts, and they have a whole big fight. Edward runs up to the castle after he accidentally hurts the boy, and then he stabs him to death.
Yes.
Which is...
Well, I mean, he had it coming.
He was a teenage boy. Like, he was a dick, but after when the film ended... and
he was picking a lot of fights with a guy who literally has weapons for hands.
Oh yeah, he was stupid and he was asking for it. But at the same time, when this film ended and Winona Ryder says, oh, it's okay, they both killed each other, they're both dead, it's fine. And the townspeople go, oh, okay, let's go home, and they all wander home. And they just leave. There's like the corpse of a child is lying in a field. It's like, a child is dead, someone check his vitals. He might be able to salvage this. Like, only a little fall. Like,
yeah.
Nobody cared. Nobody even collected the body. It was so completely abandoned.
That's true. That's true.
I like the idea that if you'd kept the shot going, you would have just kind of heard a Oh, right, yeah. And then the police come back.
Just to drag the corpse away, yeah. Oh, he's like, I'm not really dead. I'm in a lot of pain.
I'm getting better.
Oh, he's clearly dead. Just leave him. Help me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he upon being dumped, he immediately goes drunk driving and holds people at gunpoint. I think, not the saddest thing in the world that he's the one that ended up dying.
Oh no, he's clearly an angry young man. But I don't know. I felt like there was an air of tragedy around him. He said his parents never loved him, and I think when Kim says, "Why don't you come clean and just tell your dad it was you and it was an accident, whatever," he wouldn't press charges against his own son, and he says, "Oh, he absolutely would press charges against his own son." So I got the sense that he was kind of an unloved kid. So I thought it was kind of a little slightly tragic arc to that character, even though he wasn't very likable.
Daddy, turn around! Away! Jim, it's your house. They can't arrest you for setting off the alarm in your house. We'll tell them we freaked and ran.
You're not going back there, okay?
We have to go back.
No, because my father would prosecute.
His own son?
Especially his own son. And if Edward tells, I'll kill him.
Daddy, turn around!
No!
Turn around!
No!
Have to!
Winona Ryder, basically the town just takes at face value that Edward Scissorhands is dead, although nobody sees a body. And then Winona never visits him again, even though she lives like up the road. She just lives the rest of her life like, oh no, it's okay. It's fine. Like, at some point the heat would have died down, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do like that. Yeah, she walks out holding some Scissorhands. So, and again, the town doesn't question the fact that she ripped a hand from his dead body just to prove that he was dead.
Yeah, yeah, there's no investigation whatsoever here. It's like, okay, that all seems to wrap up nicely. So let's just go home. So, and so it does. Any more thoughts on this film?
I don't think I have anything that we didn't just cover.
No, I'm done.
Cool. Should we get to drinking games?
Yeah. Okay, so first one I've got is drink whenever he cuts somebody.
Oh, okay, that's good, yeah.
I guess, including himself.
Yeah.
Paul?
I would say it doesn't happen much except for one section of the film. Yeah, drink every time he cuts the topiary. So every shaped one you see that he's done, take a drink.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd definitely say drink for every new hedge that you see, because you do see a lot of them. They're really good. Yeah.
And you could probably expand that to dogs and people as well.
Sure, yeah. Just every time he creates something. Mm-hmm. Similar to your one, Harry, I had drink every time Dianne Wiest brushes off somebody inflicting physical harm on her children. So many times, like, he scratches both the kids quite badly at certain points in the film. Both by accident, to be fair. But her instinct is always to defend him. She's like, oh, he didn't mean it, you don't understand, he's fine. It's like, look after your kids first, Dianne. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, there is that one scene where, like, he's up the ladder doing something, and then Winona Ryder comes to the bottom, and she doesn't announce that she's there.
Yeah, she just does a little dance
and then the boyfriend's just like, Winona, watch out! Like, yeah, he doesn't say that. And then that gets Edward's attention, and he cuts her face. Yeah. And the boyfriend's like, look, I just saw him cut you. Like, this is a big problem. And like, oh no, but he didn't cut me. I just saw him. And the boyfriend's kind of right on that front. Like, I get that Winona's just sort of sticking up for him in a way, and the boyfriend is clearly evil, but also, yeah, that was just a very simple accident that just turned into
and it wouldn't have happened if he hadn't yelled at the top of his lungs.
True.
Startle the person with knives.
That's very true, but anything could have startled him.
Yeah.
Like a dog could have run past.
Hey! Now you've done it.
It's just a scratch, Jim. Really, it's okay.
Stay back, okay? Touch her again and I'll kill you.
No, it's no big deal. It's just...
Call a doctor. He's skewered, Kim.
No, wait.
Stay away from her, okay? I mean it. You can't touch anything without destroying it. Who the hell do you think you are even hanging around here anyway, huh?
Drink for pastel colours.
Oh, nice. Very nice, yeah. I really enjoyed Dianne Wiest's line of fruit-related dresses. She had a lot of them, like, with, like, there was, like, one with, like, half-eaten apples all over it, and then another scene it's, like, raspberries and bananas. It's, yeah. I loved it.
I would say drink anytime Edward does anything that anyone with any amount of common sense wouldn't do.
Sure.
I mean, you might not make it to the end of the film, but there you go.
Sure. No.
So have some examples.
Well, I mean, he has knives for hands, and we gave the example earlier. He goes straight to the waterbed and just goes poke. It's like, how about stop after the first one?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he could have put, like, corks on the end of them or something, you know.
Yeah.
He didn't have to lose his hands, but... Drink for oversized furniture.
Yes.
Yeah, you do see a lot of it. Like even all the rooms just seem super big compared to the people in them. It's like every room is this vast cavern with like maybe a tiny little sofa or something, or a giant fireplace or something. It's The walls all seem really high. I noticed that. It seemed like they were all in very high walled rooms.
Yeah. I'd say drink whenever any group of characters all does the same thing at the same time. So I already said about the housewives all going home as soon as the husbands come home, the husbands all leaving in the morning, all the wives getting haircuts on the exact same day, all eating together, which they seem to do. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah.
Drink anytime Edward stiffly walks away from a situation.
Oh, good. Good.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I did really enjoy Johnny Depp's physicality in that the way he walked was really, really good. Like, I was surprised he could run so fast. Like, when he needs to, he can outrun the entire town.
Yeah.
Beforehand, there's no indication that he's a particularly fast mover.
He outruns a police car.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like,
well, I mean, he's not going to get tired, so...
Well, true, yeah. I had drink for ludicrous hair, so every time you see another haircut, that's, and drink for Frankenstein references. That's the last one.
Yeah. Solid.
Yeah.
Lovely, okay. Well, I guess that before we get some sequels, I will mention our little spiel about Patreon. So if anybody would like to support the show, because you've been enjoying it, then please feel guilty for enjoying it. And to stop your guilt, go to patreon.com/beyondtheboxset and donate a little bit of money towards us.
Alex, so this is on your approach now. Rather than encouraging, we're just guilt-tripping.
Yeah.
So make people feel bad enough to support us.
I might steal that for ours.
That's not how it turns out.
Yes, at patreon.com/beyondtheboxset, you can donate as much or as little as you like, anything that you feel our show is worth. And for that, you get a few features, which are a bonus show called Beyond the Box Set, where we review films that are in cinema right now. You also get the chance to record a 30-second advert slot, or we'll record a 30-second advert slot for you, and each patron gets one advert a month on the main show, that is. And also, once a month, I have turned this into the thing now. Is it once a month that a patron can choose an episode for us to do on the main show?
We pick one a month.
We pick one patron a month.
Yes.
And they choose the episode to do on the main show, which you can guest on if you like. And if you'd like to pick a film that does already have sequels, prequels, or spin-offs or anything, we'll do that on Beyond the Box Set, just because. Yeah. So all that's available at patreon.com/Beyond the Box Set.
Great.
And also, before we get some sequels, just want to remind you all that we have our 100th episode coming up. I believe this is episode 94, 5?
4, I think. Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's 94.
Okay. Yeah, so we're doing episode 100, which is going to be live in the Chemic Tavern in Leeds, which is our local pub. That's going to be on Saturday, January 19th, around 8 p.m. Pit Saturday, so it's easy to travel to,
Yeah, sure.
Sunday evening.
See you there, Paul, I'm sure.
That'll be the day after the 99th episode, I think I've lined it up as.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that makes...
Yes.
That should
At least that's what you said a few episodes ago. So.
Good. Well, I've said it twice now, so it's got to be the way it is. Good. So yeah, if you'd like to come to that, that's currently free, I think. So yeah, please turn up and just go to beyondtheboxset.com/live, and I'll direct you to our Facebook event. Cool. And again, before we get some sequels, Friends game. Didn't forget this week.
Oh, okay, fine. I mean, we've already established it's going to be a tough one because Paul has never seen Friends.
Well, I have seen, I think at most I have seen 5 minutes in a row.
Okay.
Because I absolutely hate that show. So yes, this will be a difficult one.
Paul, name a Friends character.
Ross.
Okay, who's Ross? Vincent Price?
No, I feel like Ross is Anthony Michael Hall because he has a lot of rage.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That works. Okay, Paul, go again.
Joey's one, right?
That's right. The husband.
Yeah, I think Joey's a good husband.
Yeah.
Are we leading to a situation in which Chandler is the...
I think so.
Edward Scissorhands? Oh, I don't know about
that. Well, I was going to say Chandler is the next one because that's I only know one other name other than Chandler. So
yeah. We're going Edward Scissorhands for Chandler?
Doesn't feel right, does it?
Neither of the guys feel right, though. No, Winona Ryder is definitely Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, they wear the same wig.
Yeah.
That's literally Rachel's flashback wig from when she's like...
We could just gender switch it and have Phoebe being Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
Okay, and Monica has got to be a Kathy Baker.
Is Monica that much of a horny housewife?
I think that of anybody, she could play that one best.
Okay, sure. Who's playing Dianne Wiest then?
Forgot about that. You know what? There's actually a lot of characters in this film.
There are, yeah. I was thinking the Kathy Baker character could totally be Janice.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Long nails and hair. And
no, sorry, I forgot about...
Monica.
Yeah. Dianne Wiest, I mean.
Yeah. Clearly, she's just...
She's not that interesting.
Okay, we're doing Bullets Over Broadway next. I'm going to force feed you Dianne Wiest until she makes an impression on you.
No. Veto. Yeah, so she's Monica.
Okay, sure.
I think that's it.
Yeah, good game.
Yeah. Oh! Vincent Price, Mr. Heckles.
Yeah, that works. Like it. Good, cool.
I'll go with that. Yes.
Good.
Sure.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for the input.
Thanks for playing. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mike from the Genuine Chit Chat podcast, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. I speak to a wide variety of guests, from travellers to musicians to those afflicted with mental or physical illnesses. There's really no subject that's off limits, from movies to politics and even controversial topics ranging from sex to drug reform and political correctness. So if you still believe in the art of conversation, are intrigued by healthy debates with different ideas and perspectives you may not have thought of, and want a podcast where every episode is about something different with a variety of guests, then this may be the podcast for you. You can hear us on YouTube and all your favourite podcast apps, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. So if you want to hang out and listen to honest conversations with interesting people, then come to Genuine Chit Chat, where I'm your host, Mike Burton.
Okay, now we can get some sequels. I think, John, you're first.
Okay, sure. So this week I have done 3 small sequels rather than one big one.
Okay.
Feel free to kind of help me out with these a little bit. The first one is just literally a one-liner, which is, they are all toys.
All the characters are toys?
Yes, because I really noticed how everything seemed really weirdly proportioned.
Mm-hmm.
They're all in giant houses, and because they're all like in pastel colours and everything just seems slightly hyper-real, I was like, what if it's just like Toy Story? What if we pan out and it's some little kid playing with her toys? I feel like there's something there.
Yeah,
maybe
that
it's
works.
a Toy Story crossover. Maybe this is the plot of Toy Story 4. I don't know.
Sure.
Like Woody and Co. Oh, maybe Woody and Co. from Toy Story. This is me pitching the plot of Toy Story 4. So, Pixar, if you're listening. Or maybe Toy Story 5. Maybe they, the little girl grows up that they get with at the end of Toy Story 3. And they get, or something happens, they get passed on to another kid who's like super dark and weird and gothy. But not in like a Sid way, in that he's like wants to destroy all the toys and is evil. But more, he's just like a sad, lonely kind of, introverted kid who's has quite a dark imagination.
So they get given to Tim Burton.
Basically, yeah, they get given to a young Tim Burton. Yeah.
Okay.
He's got all these nice suburban Barbie dolls, and all these ones that you'd imagine whatever Winona Ryder and Dianne Wiest and all these housewives, they would just be dolls, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's also got this super dark, weird zombie with evil fingers that kind of represents him. And it's like, so all these dolls are like really sweet, look really sweet and cute, but they're also super weird because they're owned by this real weirdo kid. I think that'd be funny.
Yep, I like that.
That's all I've got, but
okay.
I like it.
Okay, it's a solid concept.
Okay. Number 2, remake it as a horror movie. Well, not remake it, do a sequel, but a sequel more as a direct horror. So again, I'll say I was genuinely quite chilled by the way that they just left Anthony Michael Hall's body in the snow and nobody looked out for it. So I was like, this teenager's corpse is just lying in the snow unattended.
So you're going to reanimate that corpse?
Sort of. So, as we already established that Edward Scissorhands is hiding in the castle forevermore. So let's say after the crowd disperses, he comes back downstairs and drags Michael C. Hall's corpse in from the snow.
Yeah.
And puts it into storage or something.
Yeah.
So it's preserved. Because it's cold, so it's been preserved anyway. And he spends the next few years, in between is doing his inexplicable ice sculpture work. He's also does loads of experiments to try and basically take Anthony Michael Hall's hands, Jim's hands, and replace them with his scissors.
Yes.
Because after everything that happened, he really dreams of having human hands and being...
See, that's a difficult operation to do on yourself.
It is, and that's why it takes him it's got to take him a long time.
Again, given that you don't have hands to start with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is going to take a long time, because we already established that Winona Ryder lives an entire life, becomes a grandma. So she assumes he's just cutting ice, but he's actually also cutting into that guy's body.
Because, how would you sew his hand onto your hand when you presumably do it one at a time?
Yeah. So
say he does left hand first. He's then only got his right hand of knives.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to attach a left hand to his left stump. And that's difficult. And then when he's got the left hand, it'll be a lot easier, assuming that hand's working fine.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot easier to cut through his right hand and do get that back on. But even then, that's difficult.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. That's why it's going to take him a long time. But I think we can get some good comedy out of that as well. Like some kind of montage of all the failed experiments. And
Sure.
Eventually, he succeeds. He has human hands. He replaces his own scissors with human hands at last. So he's like, fine, I can go back and deal with the community.
What does he do with the scissors?
Oh, he just casts them aside.
And what about Anthony Michael Hall's body?
Oh, that's just lying in,
Okay, so that's just rotting somewhere next to the loads of scissors.
I think he's kept it frozen.
Okay.
Like, it's like in the basement of the castle or something.
Turned into an ice sculpture.
Yeah, maybe it's like inside an ice sculpture or something. Yeah.
I like that. Doing some kind of pose.
Yeah. Maybe he puts the scissors on his hands. Yeah.
And then Anthony Michael Hall's doing sort of like a let me out kind of pose.
Definitely, yeah.
From inside this ice sculpture.
Yeah, his final revenge. He turns him into the same kind of freak that he was and traps him in ice forever.
Brilliant.
Yeah, great. Maybe you see his eyes slightly move ever so slightly inside the ice.
Yeah.
Anyway, once he's completed the operation, he finds that these new human hands are actually infused with Jim's malevolent spirit.
It sounds like a Rick and Morty episode.
It is a little bit, yeah. Well, there's an episode of The Simpsons as well, which I'm sure was ripping something else off, where Homer wears Snake's wig after Snake gets killed, and Snake's wig infects Homer's brain and turns him into a serial killer. So that kind of inspired this. So yeah, he finds that the hands are kind of infused with Jim's malevolent spirit, and they force him to go back to the town and wreak terrible revenge on all the people who abandoned his corpse and didn't make any attempt to rescue him. So yeah, he's going to go on a killing spree through the town. Edward's not in control, it's the hands.
Right.
So he's probably going to like strangle a lot of the women and stuff, and yeah, it's just going to be like a slasher movie in many ways.
How are the women going to react to this?
Oh, they're going to love it. They're going to really get off on it.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Because this town is twisted.
I just like the idea of him going around and strangling people, but he's still got that expression on his face. It's just like...
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, because he's not in control. Like he's watching it, but he's not in control of it.
Do you reckon that he has his first murder of one of the housewives, and then all the other housewives get wind of it? Initially, they're all like, oh, no. And then they're all like, oh.
Me next, yeah. Yeah, definitely. They're all super kinky.
Finally released from this pathetic life.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's going to end like the most recent Halloween movie, where the person who's going to take him out is going to be old Winona. Winona Ryder, but not just Winona Ryder as she is today in her like late 40s, early 50s. It's got to be Grandma Winona. So right back in the Grandma prosthetics.
Great. So is she Grandma prosthetics plus 40 years? Or whatever it is.
Well, no, you never know. You don't know what year it is at the end of the film. You don't know what year it is now.
True. Oh, okay. So
the point is, yeah, this film picks up at the end of the actual film, as in when Winona Ryder's a grandma reading to her kid.
Okay, she just put her kid to bed.
Yeah.
And then this all kicks off.
Yeah. So spoilers for the most recent Halloween movie. If you've not seen it, Paul, it's not that good.
I've seen it.
Oh, you have? Okay, cool. So you know how that's like she's protecting her daughter and her granddaughter, and that Jamie Lee Curtis's character has a daughter and a granddaughter, and she's protecting those two women. Maybe it's like Winona's doing that. She's protecting this little girl from her ex-lover who's become a serial killer. Maybe her own daughter crops up somewhere too. I just really feel strongly it should end with Winona Ryder in heavy old age prosthetics wielding a shotgun and just blowing Edward Scissorhands away.
This could be a sharp thing, not a shotgun.
Oh, maybe she stabs it. Yeah, okay, you're right. She stabs him through the heart with his own scissors.
Perhaps not his own scissors, just a pair of scissors.
No, I think it's his own. If they're like,
well, no, I was thinking that he'd be like going around the town murdering all the women. And eventually gets to her, and so it's in her house. How's she going to have his hand?
Or maybe they run to the castle to take refuge or something.
No, because I reckon that she's been in her house and she's been preparing for this.
Much like Jamie Lee Curtis.
Exactly. Yes. She's been preparing it for this for decades.
I had sort of an idea as you were saying that she would know after the first few murders. I'm sure there would be a description or something. She would figure out who it is and then go to the house and probably find Anthony Michael Hall's body with the hands on, so she would get them there. And then I was thinking, what if this took place before her granddaughter's born, and she does end up killing him at the end, and she's telling her granddaughter a story of the nice Edward, and what we see is at the end of the film we see that scene again, but she gets up and leaves, and we see her face, and we see that she knows she's been lying about Edward and what really happened, and she can walk past like the Scissorhands up on the side.
Oh, I
somewhere.
love that.
Oh, that's good. Okay, yeah. See, my thought was that Edward would be able to communicate with her that it's not his fault, that it's the hands, but he's like, just kill me, please, just put me out my misery. And it's like she stabs him with his own scissors, and it's very emotional because it's not really his fault. But I think your version's good too. It's darker, but I like it. Yeah. Cool. So anyway, yeah, basically that's my rough idea for a horror movie. And finally, my last idea, again, it takes place at the end of the film where it kind of lets off. Actually, no, maybe this one takes place 10 years after the end of the original film.
Mhm.
So the little girl has now grown up. She's about the age Winona Ryder was in the original film, in the main part of the original film.
Mhm.
She's like, late teens, whatever. And she goes to the house to find out if her grandma's crazy fairy tale was actually true. And she discovers Edward still living there.
Mhm.
And she convinces him to come back down to the town again, because it's been 50, 60 years. The heat's probably died down, people don't care anymore. People will be more accepting now. So he does come back down to the town again and integrates back into the community. But he finds that all the things that people found adorable and quirky about him in the early 90s are now just considered annoying and inappropriate.
Yes.
Can you see where I'm going with this?
Carry on.
It's Johnny Depp. So he tries to win them over by returning to his old hedge trimming business.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone just notices that they're not as good as the old ones, and he keeps just doing the same stuff over and over again. He gets very frustrated. He starts drinking heavily, becoming addicted to lemonade, until he starts looking old and rusty and definitely not as cute anymore. His relationship with Winona's granddaughter goes sour when he accidentally cuts her while they're having an argument. And he claims it was an accident, but it's 2018 and that's not an excuse anymore. That's not okay. And ultimately he returns to his castle and lives out the rest of his days as a reclusive weirdo.
Nice.
So yeah.
Okay. Harsh, but sure.
I think I see what you did there.
Yeah. It was subtle, but there were some slight allusions to real life in that one. You may have spotted for the keen-eared listener. Which one of those three would you say was the best?
The horror film.
Yeah, I think the horror
I would
film
say the horror one, definitely.
Yeah, probably the best force out. Okay, cool. Right, Paul, over to you.
Alright, well, immediately after thinking of doing this film, I had a joke one pop into my head, which is Edward Scissorhands, which is the exact same film, but Johnny Depp plays Edward with Edward's personality. So just you got this incredibly smiley, nice, hyper Edward Scissorhands.
Who also likes to dress in women's clothing and direct terrible movies.
Well, sure. I mean, not sure how much directing he can physically do, but
well, that could be the comedy. Yeah, like how can you be a director if you don't have hands?
Yeah, and he actually, when it's the end of the movie, he actually does cut something. So
yeah, when he says cut, it's like yeah, he wouldn't need a clapperboard. He could just use his scissors, like cut. Edward, you cut the wires like that was, and then he goes cut, and then a lighting rig falls because he's cut like a rope or something.
Yep.
like it.
And my wife told me I had to tell you her idea, which was Edwina Clipperfingers, which is his daughter who has clippers for fingers, and she's a real buzzkill.
Ah, very good.
Yes,
that's a good tagline.
It is.
If that was the horror movie version, she's a real buzzkill.
Yeah,
that way works. Yeah.
Yes, my actual sequel. So Edward has been living in the abandoned house for decades since the end of the last film. So even after old lady Winona has told the story, it's been decades since then. And however, the council has finally gotten around to demolishing the house after going through the final round of red tape, because it just takes ages. So upon the bulldozers arriving, Edward ends up having to leave, and I did think maybe having a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy moment would be kind of nice just to throw in there. Where he lays down in front of the bulldozer, but they just go around him.
Yep.
And so he ends up heading to the last place that he knew before his life of solitude, which would be Winona Ryder's house. And upon arriving there, he is greeted by Winona Ryder, and it is her now playing the granddaughter.
I see.
So she looks at him with scorn, starts trying to tell him off for playing a prank, because she knows that her grandmother's stories were made up and there never was a scissor man or anything like that. But just through the way he acts, and he's kind of stands there, he takes it because he would, and then just asks if Kim is home. And so her character, I decided to just call her Karen. I don't think she has a name in the film, so she's just Karen. Yeah, she starts to realise that this actually is Edward from the stories, and so we see her take her in, and we see a bunch of scenes kind of echoing the originals. So she shows him around, showing him how things have changed since then. There aren't any hedges around anymore, so subtle dig at climate change there, but he does help out, probably in the local barber shop and the groomers. I thought maybe even gets a part-time job at the butcher's or something, just throw something different in there. But we do see a few people around town who really notice him, but more than just, oh my god, what's that? They notice him and kind of recognize him. And we see in places around town there were pictures of him, so people are starting to put two and two together that this is that person that went missing and he didn't die all these years ago. So Karen takes him home and shows him a room that she has, which she has been working on plans for a pair of hands for him ever since her grandmother was telling her the stories, and she always believed them, and even she became an engineer because of it, because she wanted to grow up, find him, build something to help him. And so they planned to go to her workplace and put the actual hands on him, but the police turn up and arrest him because the family of Jim, who, having heard of Edward's arrival and not death, they want him to be tried for murder since there is no statute of limitations. So the end part of the film turns into sort of a trial of the last century. So Edward is being represented by the granddaughter of Esmeralda, just called Esme, just because, and she's played by Olan Jones. And she's taken the case due to the horror to the fact that the story of her grandmother's behaviour at the time, wow, she actually was like that. And she always assumed it was just old grandmother stories, like she was horrible. No, she wasn't. No, she actually was.
So Esmeralda, is that the religious fanatic who...
That was the religious fanatic, okay. Yeah.
So who did you say is going to play the grandma? The granddaughter, sorry, who's representing
it would be Olan Jones, who played...
Oh, the same actress. Okay, fine, cool.
And then I was thinking, just for the hell of it, just because it would be fun, the person who plays the judge at the trial could be Jim Carrey, and it could be Fletcher from Liar.
Okay.
He's become a judge now.
Okay, sure. Random crossover.
And so, yeah, exactly. That was the entire... It's just like, yeah, why not? So Edward is walked through the trial assisted by pretty much everyone because he doesn't know how to respond to anything. Like, he doesn't know what to say. So everyone's having to assist him, including the prosecution and the judge. Like, they're having to try and get him to respond to these things. And he ends up confessing to the murder because he did do it. But Jim's family, upon hearing his version of events and everyone there, like, they start to realize that even though he did do it, it clearly was in self-defense. Jim was holding someone at gunpoint. Like, it was entirely reasonable. And so the judge ends up agreeing that it was in self-defense, and that even if he were to find him guilty of murder, Edward's self-imposed exile has way more than surpassed any punishment he would have ended up getting for the crime. But he does order that his Scissorhands should be removed to avoid any possible repeat occurrences.
Seems fair.
So Karen ends up taking him to the workshop, and they finally give him the hands that he's wanted for so long. And in a final act of apology by the town, a museum is erected in the spot that the old house once stood, and it's filled with artifacts from the old inventor, who had a vault that was discovered with his old inventions in that Edward had stored away over the years. And a machine on the roof sends snow flying across the town, as it once did when he was there. So I sort of came up with the idea of the title being like Edward Scissorhands, The Snowman Cometh Home.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
My wife laid into me for that title, but I think it works.
Yeah, I think that's... I can see that happening, yeah. Edward is in a trial of the century kind of film. So, yeah.
He deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Justice for Edward. I mean, they couldn't give him the electric chair, could they? Because with those fingers, they just conduct so much electricity. Whatever did happen to Vincent Price's body?
I don't know.
Yeah,
probably
he ate it
away.
Yeah, again, because he lives alone, he doesn't seem like he's going to have called the coroner or anything. So
he should have taken those hands.
That's a good point.
How did he die? Was it just like a random heart attack?
Yeah, because I'd remembered it differently from the last time I saw it. I always remembered it as in Edward had accidentally killed him, but that's not it at all, is it? He just dies of a heart attack or something. He just keels over.
Yeah, basically, when presenting the hand to him, he has a heart attack and skewers the hands on Edward's scissors. And supposedly, on set, no one knew that Vincent Price was as ill as he was at the time, and like he genuinely did just kind of keel over during that scene. And he didn't have a heart attack, but he wasn't feeling well that day. So, and that's actually the shot that they used when he falls over.
Yikes!
Wow.
Well, I mean, if you get it,
method acting for you.
Sure, yeah. It was the last thing he ever did as well, wasn't it? So
yeah, the last film he ever recorded.
Well, cool. Okay, so Harry, are we moving on to yours?
Yeah. Okay, so mine is going to be both a sequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
And a prequel to this.
Okay. Is this a sequel to the Tim Burton Willy Wonka?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Okay.
I say, do you mean Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Whichever one had Johnny Depp in it.
Yeah, I say, sure. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is about Charlie. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is about Willy Wonka.
You can see where I went wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so Willy Wonka, played by Johnny Depp.
Of course.
He's given his factory to Charlie, and he moves back to his late father's castle.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He decides he's done with chocolate now and making sweets, so he's gonna try his hand at baking.
Okay, sure.
In his retirement.
Sure. Okay, just keep on the confectionery train.
Yeah, he doesn't want to run a factory, but he doesn't want to do nothing.
Sure.
So he tries baking for a bit, and he tries building some machines which can help do the baking for him, which is that conveyor belt thing that we've not already talked about. Kind of a Wallace and Gromit sort of invention.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It did look very Wallace and Gromit, didn't it?
Yeah. And eventually he decides that he needs more help to actually get this done. And so, well, he's out of Oompa Loompas. Like they've all gone to the factory.
They've unionised, yeah.
So, he can't use them. He's got to do something else. So he decides that he's going to bake himself 3 helpers made out of gingerbread.
Interesting tactic, okay, sure.
So a nice quick little montage of him actually making the dough by hand into 3 life-size gingerbread men.
Okay.
And putting them through the oven. And then out come 3 live gingerbread men who were getting more increasingly looking human.
Oh, I see, okay.
Who he decides is called Ed, Eddie and Edward.
Okay, I see. Oh, so each one progressively looks more like a human being. The other 2 just look like gingerbread.
Oh, no, they're all just sort of... They start off looking like gingerbread men, all 3 of them, and then they just sort of slowly, over the course of days or weeks or something, just look more and more human. And
is he kind of just adding bits to them all the time to kind of improve the recipe or something?
Sort of thing, yeah.
Okay, sure.
Are they 3 different heights by any chance?
They could be. Are you now thinking of the cartoon that I've stolen this from?
Yes.
Lovely. They can be. I've not really worked into that cartoon much. I've done something else.
Okay.
But I was thinking about that, but I don't know it that well. So. Anyway, so he puts them straight to work at making cookies. And as they slowly grow more human, but he very quickly notices that they're all struggling because, well, one thing about gingerbread men, none of them have fingers, which makes it very difficult to actually complete a task.
True, yeah.
So he decides he's going to give them each a different tool to work with.
Okay.
Would you guys like to guess what I've done here?
Well, I'm guessing one of them's going to be scissors.
Yes, yeah.
Is there going to be a knife and a fork by any chance?
No.
Spoons?
Nope, think outside the box.
Saws?
Okay, so to Edward, he gives sharp blades so he can cut things.
Okay.
To Eddie, he gives some rocks that you can use for bashing and kneading.
And
to Ed, he gives paper.
Oh, okay. What's the use of paper?
To use for picking up hot cookies.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. You can wrap them. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I like it. Okay.
Is it parchment paper so it doesn't catch fire?
Yeah, sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, in the boys' downtime, they've started to fight each other, which isn't great. Edward Scissorhands, he always wins against Ed Paperhands.
Yeah.
He always wins against Ed Rockhands. Who always wins against Ed Scissorhands, and the circle continues.
Okay.
Without a clear winner at any time.
Okay.
Until one day, the fighting gets particularly out of hand, and before Willy Wonka can actually step in, Edward Scissorhands kills Ed Paperhands.
Oh no!
He's dead.
Just slices his hands.
Just stabs him or something. I don't know.
Okay.
The fighting gets out of hand.
Oh dear. So I'm guessing Willy Wonka is the Vincent Price character, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just connecting that dot. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Maybe I should have mentioned. I've also not cast anybody to play the 3 gingerbread men in this, but
sure.
I was thinking maybe just keep it as Johnny Depp and just de-age, because there's a lot of makeup and different special effects would be applied anyway.
Yeah. But what about the other 2?
Oh no, they're all the same, by the way.
Oh, they're all Johnny Depps.
Yeah,
just with different hand. Okay, that makes sense.
They pretty much all look like Edward Scissorhands, but just.
I see. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting into these details on my last paragraph. So Willy Wonka, he knows that he can't leave the 2 remaining boys together, because obviously Eddie Rockhands is at some point just going to kill Edward Scissorhands.
Sure, yeah.
So, he sends Eddie Rockhands away, and Eddie Rockhands... This was all essentially a prologue, and I've not done the main meat of it, but I thought I'd just leave it as this. Eddie Rockhands goes off and has his own adventure somewhere.
Sure. Okay, so it's like, Edward Scissorhands, you've killed... So you need to stay here for everyone's good.
Well, for your own safety, I'm going to send away your brother.
Sure, and for the brother hasn't done anything wrong. Edward Rockhands hasn't killed yet.
Exactly, yeah. So Edward Scissorhands, I'm going to keep an eye on you here.
Okay.
I guess.
What do you think might happen to Edward Rockhands?
And I'm going to give you some real hands at some point.
Sure.
Edward Rockhands? I'm not sure. So where should he go? He's getting banished to somewhere else.
Sure.
So not just the village at the bottom of the hill.
Well, I'm thinking, what would he be useful for other than defeating scissors?
Wrestling.
Wrestling. Yeah, I was thinking
boxing.
Boxing, sure, yeah. So yeah, maybe he becomes a really good boxer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that he'd have to wear the gloves at all times because if the gloves came off, they were just, I'm fighting rocks.
Yeah.
I think he'd be disqualified.
Yeah, so Eddie Rockhands becomes a world champion boxer the next town over or something.
And maybe there's kind of a Rocky-style film, storyline, I should say. And instead of Apollo Creed, it's Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
So that is Rock, Paper, Scissorhands.
Nice, very nice. I see where you went with that. I like the idea of Willy Wonka being the Vincent Price character. That kind of makes sense because he's a crazy inventor and ties those franchises together very nicely. So, yeah.
I was thinking like crazy inventor, possibly Potts from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be about the right age now.
True.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
So what we're positing here is that Edward Scissorhands is actually gingerbread the whole time.
Yes. Yeah, so we talked about whether he was a zombie or a robot. No, he's a gingerbread man.
Oh, that's a twist.
I mean, prove me wrong.
No, fine, yeah. I mean, he doesn't seem to react well to lemonade. But then I guess gingerbread, if you poured lemonade on a gingerbread man, he'd go all soggy anyway, so... Okay, yeah. And maybe that's why the women are so attracted to him, because despite being all metallic and weird, he smells great.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Solved it.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, he's clearly a gingerbread man. Absolutely. Okay, that's good. I think Tim Burton would approve of that.
Sure.
Okay. Should we move on to listener submissions then?
Yeah, let's. I've got a few this week.
Good. Go ahead.
It starts off with Jason Croxon, who, if you remember last week, he put me in one of his ideas in not such a flattering way. He's now said, I'm not sure if I'm still permitted to pitch ideas.
Sure. Well, that's up to you.
That's all he's got.
Oh, okay. I thought he was going to just keep putting you in again and again.
Actually, to be fair, I'm not sure if
Harry Scissorhands.
No, he's not replied. I guess I've completely put him off, unless he tweeted you.
No, nothing I've seen.
Oh, good, he's learned. So, Dante from last week.
Dante Pinal from Let's Get Contextual.
Mm-hmm. Actually, his wife has done the first two ideas. A sequel idea, what does Edward do besides chop stuff?
Okay, sure.
Prequel idea, a film about the scientist making him, maybe Frankenstein style. So yeah, he's
essentially your idea. Yeah.
No,
I mean, obviously not.
No, not quite.
But a prequel about the scientist. Yeah.
He's clearly had a lot of the same thoughts that we've had this episode.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I mean. Well, I mean, you just said they both came from his wife. Does she have a name?
Cassie.
Cassie. Yeah. Let's not define her entirely by her husband.
It could just be him in drag.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. We don't know what his life is.
No, that is true. Okay, another sequel idea from Dante this time.
Okay.
Edward stays up in his tower and starts hating humanity. So he finally fixes his hands, meets a certain wife, Tim Burton, and they start a certain bakery together, murdering people and baking them in pies.
Oh, nice.
See, that's a good one.
Okay.
What do we think of that?
That's good, yeah. Just bring all the whole Tim Burton cinematic universe together.
Yeah. Okay, Tyler Thornton. Sequel. He meets other weirdos who have similar things going on, like Tommy Bicycle Butt. I'm reading this for the first time as well. Susie Sharkfoot and Jerome Etch-a-Sketch Elbows.
Love it.
He says, I really like those, but these are better. Dwayne Rockfinger and Phyllis Paperfoot.
Okay.
I like maybe Sam Slinky Leg.
Yeah. Interesting he's done rock and paper now. I'm not sure if he's actually put together the rock, paper, scissors connection there. Anyways, regardless of who he meets, they punch a bit and become friends. Then they have to save the city, but in doing so accidentally hurt tons of people. Are successful though.
Okay, like it.
Great.
Very good. Etch-a-Sketch Elbows.
Oh, here we go. Nick Macy. What about Edward Rockhands and Edward Paperhands? What about their stories? Then do like an Avengers film with all three of them.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's doable.
Yep. By the way, I didn't read listener submissions before writing my idea this week.
No,
just because I had an idea and I was like, finally I can do something.
Sure, okay.
A Garrett Hunter. He takes the scissors, brackets, because they're obviously just gloves. So he takes off the scissors and he lives a normal, lonely, emo life. Stumbles into a hot topic and sues then over likeness rights, but he no longer has the scissor hands, so he has to go back to his hometown and put them back on. A hero's return.
Okay, sure. Okay, I have a few. Ira Ray said Edward Penis Hands.
Oh god, these ideas are stupid, but I love them.
Yeah, as did Daniel Tickner at One Aussie Nerd One. Also said there has to be a porn version called Edward Penis Hands. So
yes,
that might exist. Who knows?
Yeah,
let's have a look on Pornhub. James Spurrier said Scissor Edward Hands.
Scissor Edward Hands.
Yeah,
yes.
So like a walking pair of scissors with 10 Johnny Depps on their fingers. How disturbing!
Oh god.
Yeah. Christopher Bowen said Edward Hands. He gets real hands, but becomes not so good at shop work anymore. so he becomes an accountant for a toy factory.
Yep.
So it's kind of a boring movie. Gets about 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. So he's got low expectations for his own sequel there, but sure. Jose Martinez said Breadwood Butterhands.
Great.
Again, is that just like a gingerbread man with buttery hands? Is that
yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Luke Young said Hank Regular Hands.
Oh, that's a really good one.
Yeah. Nikki Masters said Edward crowdfunded 3D printed hands.
Yep. Yep. Lovely.
David Hanlos said just the original film, but with extra footage. Call it Edward Scissorhands, the director's cut.
Oh.
Well, I laughed. Dennis Fanning said Theodore Scissorfeet. It's Edward's brother who can really cut a rug. Get it? Cut a rug, dance.
Yeah, sure.
Kate Lux said Edward Scissorhands ? He gets regular hands and questions it whether being normal is really possible or in fact desirable, and eventually settles on something partway between his old scissors and his regular hands. So maybe some smaller scissors, I don't know, some slightly less sharp scissors. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's a bit saccharine and heavy on the moral that while you might tone yourself down, you should never completely blend in with everyone else. It's a very obvious allegory about being a goth after the age of 30.
Yep.
Yeah, so you might dress down a little bit, but you don't want to completely change who you are. Heather Watson said Edward Emery Hands.
Sorry, who? Heather, did he say?
Heather Watson, yeah.
I heard Emma. I was like, whoa.
No, it's not Emma Watson, sorry. Sorry to get your hopes up. Heather Watson said Edward Emery Hands. He opens a nail salon and learns something about life and love, and the active length means something different to everybody. So it's like emery as in emery boards that you used to file your nails.
Yeah.
Adam Toole said Edward Respect for Women Hands. Seems like a best career option for Johnny Depp right now. Another terrifying idea here. Jason Bitterstein, Edward Benedict Cumberbatch Hands. So again, is that Johnny Depp with 10 mini Benedict Cumberbatches sticking out of his hands? Like,
so are they
role for each one?
I was going to say, are they all different roles? So we've got like
one's Doctor Strange,
you've got
one's Sherlock.
one finger that's really good at solving crimes, another one that can just fire magic. What else has he done? There's a dragon, one that can just fire fire.
Yeah, one with a terrible dye job that wangs on about WikiLeaks the whole time.
Yes, yeah. There's one that's very good at solving codes.
Yeah, this could run. That's definitely commercially viable. I like it.
Would that one finger also be shamed for being gay?
Possibly, yeah. Alex Garcia, Knife Cop, Edward Scissorhands 2 RoboCop 4 crossover movie. Edward has just been given real hands by a different mad scientist from a neighbouring suburb. Sure. He's settled in with Kim, as in Winona Ryder, until her house explodes with her in it. What the fuck? Edward traces the clues at the scene to Detroit, where he is seen as an asset and candidate for the RoboCop program. He's upgraded and given gun, knife, scissors as weapons. He tracks down the bomber, and it's Kim Boggs herself. That's Winona again. She blew up her whole family in order to start over as the new head of OCP. Edward takes her out and puts the company in the hands of an 8-year-old girl. Final lines: nice stabbing, son. What's your name? Scissorhands. Credits. So,
good, yeah.
Action-packed. Stephen Jones said, the only way to go is to make it an extended universe of movies with Lionel Rock hands and Carl Paper hands. So here we go again. And then end it with an epic crossover cinematic event.
Yep.
Mike Carey said Edward Tinsnip Hands.
Tinsnip.
Edward gets an upgrade and finds work in a sheet metal factory in this working class dramedy. Gary Oldman plays Edward's alcoholic foreman.
Brilliant.
Trebert Rintala said Scissor Act 2 in the cut. Scissor Act 2.
Yep, okay.
Paul Crane, Edward Centre Hands. In this one, he has normal hands, but they're attached to his waist instead of his arms. So.
What a weird situation. Yeah. Johnny Depp doing that.
Indeed. A few more over on Twitter now. False Starts Pod, at False Starts Pod, said Freddy versus Eddie.
Yep.
To which Jose from the Contrarians podcast, at We Are the Contrarians, said, why not Eddie versus Jason? So either one works.
Yeah, sure.
Our friend Martin Gardner, at MG Loves Fun, said Edward Scissorhands is confronted by his nemesis, Richard Paperhands and William Stonehands, and the three engage in an epic freeway battle.
See, Paul, this is what you get for being a guest or a host on the show. You get to pick the best jokes first.
Yeah.
And then when everybody else says it, it gets repetitive.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I'm shocked no one has picked yet, so I kind of want to see if it's...
any
of the other submissions have it.
You say that right now before somebody else does.
Alright, I'm genuinely shocked no one's gone for Edward Swiss Army Man.
Oh. No, I can confirm nobody's been down that road. But yeah.
Damn, that's good.
That is good, yeah. Just two more.
So wait. So in Edward Swiss Army Man, the Edward Scissorhands character, Johnny Depp, who's he playing? Is he the corpse?
He's updated his scissor hand. So now he's still got the one scissor blade, but the rest of his have been changed for like the little thing for getting stoned out of horses' hooves and little scissors and all that.
Okay, so it's not just a remake of the film Swiss Army Man.
No, it is not. He's upgraded himself so that he can be better and less of a...
I mean, to be fair, that is the standard upgrade film, upgraded from scissors.
Sure, yeah.
Little nail clippers.
Mm-hmm.
Edward nail clippers.
I'm just thinking, yeah, that's slightly less impressive, yeah. So we are the Contrarians. Our Contrarian Prime said, Edward Normal Hands, a mad scientist finds Ed and fixes him. Ed discovers that without his cool scissor hands, he's just a boring emo guy and nobody's interested in him anymore. Film ends with Ed sticking his hands in a trash disposal in hopes that it'll make him cool again. So
yeah.
And those American trash disposals that put your hands off. Yeah.
To be fair, that is cool.
It's pretty punk rock to stick your hands into a well, pretty stupid really, but
No, I fully endorse it.
Okay,
listeners, if you
please all maim yourselves. How will they ever be able to subscribe or review or support us on Patreon if they've got no hands?
You can use their noses.
True. I suppose Siri could do it.
Yeah.
All right, fine. Actually, right, go ahead. Chop all your hands off, listeners. That's cool. Please don't. And finally, I don't want to get sued. We Watch Anything said Ed Wood Scissorhands. Oh, this came up before, didn't it? A mashup in which Johnny Depp's benived hero grows up to make appalling B movies, still directed by Tim Burton. So, and those were our listener submissions.
Great.
Mm-hmm. So, if you have any sequel ideas for Edward Scissorhands or any other movies we've done in the past, please let us know. We are Beyond the Box Set. You can find us at beyondtheboxset.com. Our podcast is available on all good podcasting platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Acast, Google Play, and many more. Just search Beyond the Box Set. You can also find us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Beyond the Box Set or at Beyond the Box Set on Twitter. And our Patreon is patreon.com/Beyond the Box Set. And we have merchandise available at tpublic.com. Again, just search Beyond the Box Set.
And if you're interested to come to the live show, don't forget beyondtheboxset.com/live. And we'll see you in January.
Cool.
We'd like as much support as possible because we're hoping it's going to be more than just like you, me, and then just like two friends.
I mean, I'd be happy with that. As long as it's just not you and me. Like,
yeah, that helps.
Let's not count our chickens. But yeah, it should be a good night. So, Paul, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on, finally.
Do you want to plug your show again?
Sure. I mean, I was going to say, basically everything you just said, with the exception of the merchandise and the live show, you can do with us. Just search Blokebusters instead. We've got blokebusters.com on Patreon, patreon.com/Blokebusters podcast, and Blokebusters on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you can email us at theblokes@blokebusters.com if you have any long form thing that you want to get into with us. And as I said before as well, we also do Filmly Fortunes, and the next episode of that should be out in a week or two, so look out for that. You might hear some familiar voices on that one. So.
Cool. Okay, so Harry, are you picking next week's film?
I believe I am.
Okay.
So to really get into Christmas, into a film that we cannot deny is a Christmas movie.
Okay.
There is no way this film is not a Christmas movie. It's a little film called Elf.
Oh, okay.
So, Paul, what do you think? Is that a Christmas movie?
I haven't seen more than 2 minutes of it because I hate Wolf Hour comedies.
You know what? Me too. But I've seen it. I've seen Elf, and I actually really enjoyed it. It really surprised me.
Okay.
So we'll get into that more next week, I guess.
Cool, great. So thanks for listening, and join us next week for Elf.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul, and we'll catch up with you later.
Yeah. Bye.
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 I'm an old woman now.